Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Anthony Joshua gave an interview a day or two ago talking about his future, and he made it very clear that he is targeting Tyson Fury as his 2025 goal. Not so much the Daniel Dubois rematch, which was intriguing. Eddie Hearn actually talks about the Daniel Dubois rematch more than Joshua does. Now, of course, Fury versus Joshua would still do big numbers, but of course it is in no way the fight that it once was. You know, the 90,000 at Wembley Stadium sellout thing when they were both undefeated, or even when Joshua had lost to Andy Ruiz, there was talk of it. You know, if you go back to, I think it was originally scheduled for August 2021, or was it 2022? Do the maths here. I think it's 2021. That's when they were originally talking about it. And they'd supposedly at one point both signed for it. But then there was the arbitration with Wilder for Fury at the third match. The court ruled that Fury had to face Wilder for a third time, and Eddie Hearn was running around all over the world trying to sort things out. And then suddenly Bob Arum, during a phone conversation, said, "Well, actually, no, it's off. We're going to fight Wilder." Because he promotes Fury in the US, and Hearn was like, "What are you talking about? You told me that wouldn't be an issue." Yeah, well, it was an issue, and so we now have a situation which is not entirely dissimilar to Khan versus Brook, which was a success financially on a more modest. Wouldn't be the absolute blockbuster that this would be. But there's no doubt that Joshua versus Fury still has some sort of legs to it. But Joshua, the way he phrased things during this interview was quite telling. He talked of, the clock ticking, time being of the essence, as he put it. And when someone talks like that, they're acknowledging that the clock is ticking in the sense that their career is perhaps entering its final stretch. So, one foot in retirement, maybe that's pushing it a little bit. But at 35, Joshua is aware of the situation. Whereas Fury, when he's talked about, what is he now, 36, Fury? He talks about carrying on for years. He doesn't have, any kind of illusions of, he doesn't allude to retirement to any degree. He's like, no, I'm fine, So I lost a couple of fights, who cares? So there's that difference in mentality, but here's the thing, right? Could this be sold? And that's the first thing. I think the short answer is yes, because they are still two big names in British boxing. It would be a UK showdown. It's diminished in its status. Certainly internationally, it's totally diminished. But people would turn up to see it. So financially, it's not as big as it was, as Hearn says, but it could still be a massive fight. But would it be a competitive fight? Is it a fight where you would think, I'm not really sure who's going to win? Because at the moment, I'm not absolutely convinced, but I would make Fury a very, very heavy favourite to beat Joshua, possibly by stoppage. I think I'm 60-40 in the sense that he'd beat him on a stoppage. And in fact, I would say it's 75-25 at least that Fury would beat Joshua either by stoppage or points. Why do I think that? Well, Fury is coming off 2 defeats to Alexander Usyk, which were, although I think Usyk clearly won both, I feel that it was competitive. And in his last performance, the second one, he didn't look like a shot fighter to me. Okay, he's not what he was, but during that fight, throughout that fight, he didn't look shot to me. He looked not the fighter he was, a little bit diminished, but against, you bear in mind who he's fighting. Even though Usyk is a much smaller man, naturally, but these are heavyweights, it doesn't actually matter that much. It depends on the skill level, of course. And we know that Usyk is a generational talent. Fury has something left, clearly. And more to the point, has that fighter's mentality. He's mentally a very physically strong man in the ring. Out of the ring, you can make That's a video for a different time. But in the ring, there's nothing feeble about him at all. He's a fighting man. Now Joshua is coming off just the one defeat. But my God, he was smashed to bits. This wasn't remotely competitive. Daniel Dubois, who went in as the underdog, just smashed right through him and didn't just beat him and knock him out for the full count. He beat him up. I mean, Joshua was on the floor in the first round, the third round, the fourth round, and then knocked out in the fifth. So he was up and down like a bride's nightie, which shows guts. It shows guts. But there's a difference between having guts in the ring, and let's be honest here, most fighters, in fact, I would say anyone who gets in that ring and swaps punches in front of other people, I mean, it's the loneliest place in the bloody world. Even if you're sparring, it could be the loneliest place in the world. I would say that that shows a level of guts that a lot of people couldn't face. They couldn't run with. So Joshua, bearing in mind, I mean, the Dubois fight was a sellout at Wembley Stadium. He fought in America when he got stopped by Andy Ruiz, of course, in America. Then he won the title back over in Saudi. He sold out other stadiums, Cardiff. Well, Wembley Stadium was the venue of his biggest victory, probably his biggest victory really in terms of name recognition, which was the Vladimir Klitschko fight. Again, another fight that he was almost knocked out in. He was floored. Joshua has guts, but he doesn't quite have the mental fortitude that Fury has. Now, what do I mean by that? It's really a case of Telly Atlas used to talk a lot about game quitters, people who would fight on and on and on, but lost the belief that they could win. So they were really fighting to the end. It was like going down with the ship, all flags flying, all guns blazing, but not actually believing that they were going to survive. I wouldn't, to any degree, call Joshua a quitter. A lot of people say he quit in the first Ruiz fight. He didn't. That's a load of bullshit. He got lost. He just didn't know didn't really know what to do. But he would have carried on if the ref had let him carry on. He'd have carried on. It's just that he didn't have a clue what to do to counter what Ruiz was doing, and he was hurt. He was mildly concussed, probably more than mildly concussed. His legs weren't really there, and he was like the cork in the sea, being taken by the tide. That's not quitting. That's not quitting at all. Daniel Dubois quit because he could have got up within 10 seconds against Usyk, but he didn't. That's quitting. And again, I'm not having a go at Daniel Dubois because Daniel Dubois has come back fantastically well. But again, he kind of got lost, didn't know what he was doing. He was demoralised. So he took the 10 count and he did it against Joyce as well. I'm not as harsh on people when it comes to actually quitting as a lot of people are. But we need to differentiate between what is actually quitting and what is simply, losing the belief that you can win, which is a very different thing. But you can lose that belief and still fight to the end, to the absolute end. And I think Joshua falls more into that category, the latter category. But could he come back from such a devastating defeat, such a conclusive defeat, to take on what's left of Fury? And I think there is quite a bit left of Fury. I don't hold with this idea that he's finished, entirely finished. He's on the downside of his career, not just because of his age, because of his lifestyle and everything, but he's got something left. So Joshua, and also just as an aside, I think if you trace Joshua back to that first Ruiz fight that I just mentioned, he never really got over being gun shy after that defeat. I mean, yes, he won the rematch boxing very, very cautiously, very conservatively. And then was it Pulev? Beat Pulev. There was a fight against Povetkin. And then, of course, the two against Usyk. And then even after that, see, he's lost 4 fights now. But I don't actually think he really fully got over the first Ruiz fight. I think that made him gun shy. And he is the type who will second guess, who will overthink things, who will disappear sort of down a rabbit hole of constantly wondering, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? Maybe that. You can, sometimes it's best to declutter your mind and get to the point where, get back to what originally made you, succeed, which is that with Joshua, it was a decent level of technique, did the basics very, very well. He's actually a pretty decent boxer, good jab, footwork's not too bad. And combine it with power, extreme power, which is what Joshua was doing. After the first Ruiz fight, it was a case of, what am I doing here? Should I box more? Maybe I'll put the power on the back burner. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. It's all maybes. And he jumped from trainer to trainer. This doesn't show. I mean, you could say Fury's done that. Fury's had several trainers. But with Joshua, I see a lot of self-doubt there. Not self-doubt necessarily in his talent and ability, but self-doubt in how he can put it together. In what should I do? It's like he's got different options, and he doesn't really know which one to pick. Do you know what I mean? So if you combine that psychology with being blasted out of the water in your previous fight by Daniel Dubois, even though you can, comparing that to the back-to-back defeats to Usyk with Fury. I still don't see those things as being comparable. I think Joshua, it will be very, very intriguing to see if he can recover from that Dubois defeat. I don't think he'll ever be the same. I don't think he was ever really the same after the first Ruiz fight. But can he come back? Can he compete at world level anymore? I think there's a very, very big question mark over him, very big. Whereas I do think that Fury, if he wants to, if he gets himself in shape and so on, can compete at world level. I see no reason to believe he can't, based on the two Usyk defeats, especially the second one where I thought he actually boxed better. A lot of people have said that the weight was an issue. Yeah, it was. I got the feeling that in that second Usyk fight, Fury was concerned about doing the full 12, fighting for 3 minutes of every round for the full 12, and that cost him. So you can argue that the weight was an issue there, probably a mistake coming in heavier. But he's still got world-class ability. I do not know whether that's true of Joshua. And again, at the risk of sort of, flogging the point to death, I think this is about his psychology as much as his physical prowess. Because he's a well-preserved 35-year-old, Joshua, physically. But mentally, there's a lot of fractures there. Psychologically, there's a lot of mold that needs to be stripped off. And I'm not sure he's got the time to do it. So, yes, time is of the essence. I think he's right about that. But, yeah. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think that this would be a competitive fight? I did have someone in my comments saying they think Joshua still beats Fury. All right, okay, that's a statement. I don't agree with it, but that's I would definitely pick Fury to win that fight. But I would always pick Fury. I mean, going back to when they were both unbeaten, I thought Fury had the style to beat Joshua. But you leave your comments below. You tell me what you think, and of course. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you like the video, hit the like button. Hit subscribe if you're new. Build the channel up. And I'm looking forward to reading what you got to say. Ladies and gentlemen, I always appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.